Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unbound Season 2, The Weight of Truth. I'm Beth Curry, and today I'm going to be talking about something that a lot of weight loss content completely ignores, and that's the role that trauma plays in how we use food. This is Chapter 3. It's not fun. I don't know necessarily that it will be as hard for the listener to listen to as Chapter 1 was. So, if you don't feel like you want more bummer stuff, then you can walk away and come back. But if you're ready to hear some uncomfortable truths about the lies we tell ourselves, stick around. This is Chapter 3 in the book called The Teenage Trauma Years. If being a fat kid built the foundation, being a traumatized fat teenager poured the concrete. Trauma and weight gain go together like matches and gasoline. You don't always see the connection until everything's already burning, but once you do, it's impossible to ignore. Trauma doesn't just hurt your feelings, it rewires your brain, changes how you process stress, and turns food from fuel into medication. And food is a really shitty medication, but it's the most accessible one when you're a teenager with no other coping skills in a world that feels like it's actively trying to destroy you. I'm not going to give you all the gory details of my trauma because this isn't trauma porn, and you don't need my specific story to understand yours. I am writing a whole other book about that anyway, and I won't force you to read it. What you need to understand is how trauma and weight gain feed each other in this fucked up cycle that gets harder to break every day you stay in it. Here's what trauma does to your relationship with food. It makes eating feel like the only safe thing in a world that doesn't feel safe. When everything else in your life feels chaotic and out of control, food is predictable. It's always there. It always does what you expect it to do. It numbs the noise in your head, even if it's just for a few minutes. Food became the only thing that never let me down. People let you down. Situations let you down. Your own body lets you down. But food always showed up. Food never said no. Food never made me feel stupid or ugly or unwanted. Except, of course, it was doing all of those things, just slowly, and I was too busy medicating to notice. The lies I told myself during those years were masterpieces of self-deception. I deserved this. After a shitty day, after someone was cruel, after life felt overwhelming, I deserved comfort. And comfort looked like whatever would make me feel better right now, even if it made everything worse tomorrow. Today was hard. Every day was hard. Every day gave me a reason to eat my feelings. Bad day, eat. Good day, celebrate with food. Boring day, food makes it interesting. Stressful day, food calms me down. There was literally no day that didn't qualify as a reason to overeat. Tomorrow I'll start fresh. Tomorrow I'll eat better. Tomorrow I'll exercise. Tomorrow I'll get my shit together. But tomorrow was always tomorrow, never today. Tomorrow was this magical land where I was suddenly disciplined and motivated and in control. But I kept living in today where I was none of those things. This one thing won't matter. One donut, one slice of pizza, one bag of chips, one drive-thru run. It's just one thing. Except it was never just one thing. It was one thing on top of yesterday's one thing on top of last week's one thing. One thing multiplied by 365 days a year for years and years until one thing had built a body that was slowly suffocating me. If no one saw me eat it, it doesn't count. This might be the most pathetic lie of all, but also the most common. Standing in the kitchen, eating directly from containers, finishing the kids' plates so it didn't go to waste, stopping for fast food between errands and eating it in the car before going home. The calories didn't count if there were no witnesses, right? Wrong. My body was keeping track even when I pretended I wasn't. I'll just eat this to feel better, then I'll get my life together. Food was going to solve my emotional problems, and once I felt better, then I'd be ready to make changes. But food doesn't solve emotional problems. It postpones them. It buries them under more problems, and every time I ate to feel better, I felt worse, which made me want to eat more to feel better, which made me feel worse, and on and fucking on. Eating is making me repulsive to the outside world and the most dangerous people, so it's basically protection. Exactly what I need. Food was going to be my armor by creating a body nobody looked at, for nefarious reasons anyway. The truth was, food wasn't helping me cope. It was helping me hide. Trauma had taught me that the world was dangerous and unpredictable, and food was my way of building walls. Every pound was another layer of protection between me and a world that had already hurt me. If I was big enough, maybe I'd be too much work to hurt. If I was invisible enough in every other way, maybe no one would notice I was taking up space. But those walls that were supposed to protect me became the prison that was killing me. By the time I left high school, I wasn't just fat, I was trapped. Trapped in a body that hurt to live in, trapped in patterns that felt impossible to break, trapped in an identity that had grown around my weight like scar tissue. I wasn't even near finished with the destruction. And the most fucked up part, I thought this was just how it was supposed to be. I thought some people were just meant to be fat, and I was just one of them, and fighting it was just setting myself up for failure and disappointment. I thought wanting to be smaller was shallow and vain, and everything the world was telling me was wrong with diet culture. I thought accepting my body meant accepting a slow death. And I was comfortable with that, because being comfortable with dying felt easier than getting uncomfortable with living. That comfort almost killed me, literally. Real talk questions. What are you really feeding when you're stress eating? Hint, it's not hunger. Next time you reach for food when you're not physically hungry, stop and ask yourself, what am I trying to make go away? What am I trying to feel instead? You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. What's your version of I deserve this, and why is it bullshit? We all have our version of this lie. Maybe it's I've been good all week. Maybe it's I work hard. Maybe it's life is short. Whatever yours is, write it down and then ask yourself, do you deserve to feel like shit tomorrow? Because that's what you're actually choosing. How many tomorrows have you wasted waiting for the right time? Be honest, how long have you been waiting for motivation to strike? For the perfect moment, for everything else in your life to be sorted before you deal with your weight. Tomorrow isn't coming to save you. Today is all you have. Uncomfortable truth exercise. List your top 5 food excuses. Now rewrite them as what they really are. For example, I deserve this becomes I'm choosing temporary comfort over long-term health. Today was hard becomes I'm using food to avoid dealing with my emotions. I'll start tomorrow becomes I'm procrastinating on my own life. This one thing won't matter becomes I'm lying to myself about consequences. If no one saw it, it doesn't count becomes I'm hiding my behavior even from myself. The truth hurts, but lies hurt more. They just hurt slower, so you don't notice it until you're drowning. Truth bomb. Your trauma is real. Your pain is valid. Your coping mechanisms made sense at the time. But just because something made sense then doesn't mean it has to make sense now. You survived whatever you went through. Now you get to decide if you're going to live through what comes next. And living means getting uncomfortable with the lies that have been keeping you comfortable with dying. Okay, so let's talk about those lies, because I guarantee you're telling yourself at least one of them right now. Maybe all of them. I deserve this is probably the most insidious because it, sounds so reasonable, right? I mean, I still think it does. I think it sounds pretty damn reasonable. You've had a hard day and you've dealt with really difficult people. You've pushed through stress and exhaustion. Of course you deserve something nice. The problem is that we've confused deserve with need. You might deserve comfort and rest and kindness, but what you're giving yourself with food is temporary numbness followed by shame and physical consequences. And that's not really a treat, right? I think that's self-sabotage with better marketing. And tomorrow I'll start fresh. How many tomorrows have you lived through while waiting for that magical tomorrow when everything clicks? January 1st or Monday or whatever, always tomorrow, never today, because today is always too hard or too busy or too stressful or too something. Tomorrow I'll have more willpower and more time and more motivation and I won't be so damn tired. Except tomorrow, when it does finally arrive, is just another today with all the same stupid challenges, right? So the perfect time doesn't exist. There's only right now and what you choose to do with it. And that if no one saw it, it doesn't count lie is heartbreaking to me because it shows how deeply we've kind of internalized shame around food. We're literally hiding our eating from ourselves, standing at the counter, eating directly from containers, eating in the car before we get home, secret stashes of food that nobody knows about. We're performing this elaborate theater of pretending we don't eat as much as we do. Kind of like it's because we believe that, calories only count when they're witnessed, right? Your body doesn't care if you ate alone in the dark. It's still kind of processing every bite. So that's a bit of a delulu situation. The one, though, that I really want you to dig into is the idea that gaining weight was protection. That kind of building this fortress of flesh would keep me safe from harm. And in some twisted way, it made sense. If I was physically repulsive, then predators would leave me alone. If I took up too much space, I'd feel like, I had the right to take up space at all. Really confusing shit there. The problem is that, armor made of your own body isn't protection. It's a prison more than anything. And it doesn't keep the danger out. Trust me, I should have learned this when I was going through it. I was still in danger and I was still hurt even when I was big. And by the time I realized all of that shit, I built the walls so high that I couldn't even see over them anymore, So it just created extra work for me. Trauma does rewire your brain. That's not metaphorical. It's actual neurological fact. It kind of changes how your amygdala processes threats, how your prefrontal cortex makes decisions, how your entire stress response system functions. So when you've experienced trauma, your brain is literally looking for danger all the livelong day, and food becomes one of the few things that can temporarily calm that hypervigilance down. That's why the whole just eat less and move more shit doesn't work for trauma survivors or people who need to do this mental work. Like my whole point of this entire book and podcast season, you're not dealing with a simple calorie equation. You're dealing with a nervous system that's been trained to see the world as dangerous, and food is the only reliable source of safety and comfort. So when I say you need to work on your mental shit before weight loss will stick, this is what I mean. Yes, that calorie equation is valid and accurate, but we all have something going on underneath, right? So you have to understand what you're eating and what you're really feeding. What you're trying to protect yourself from. Because until you address the underlying trauma, the fear and the belief that that you need food to survive emotionally, you're just going to keep rebuilding those walls every time you knock them down. The uncomfortable truth exercise that I included, actually do it. Like, try it. Take your favorite food excuse and translate it into what it really means. Stop letting yourself off the hook with these comfortable bullshit lies and stories. The truth hurts, but as they say, it really is the only thing that will set you free. Your trauma is real, and what happened to you matters. The coping mechanisms you developed make perfect sense given what you were dealing with, and maybe what you still are. But you get to decide if those coping mechanisms still serve you now. You survived whatever hurt you. Now you have to decide if you're going to truly live or if you're going to just keep slowly dying behind walls that were never actually protecting you in the first place. Next episode, I'll be talking a little bit more about that pesky positivity movement, how it saved me, how it almost killed me. It felt like liberation. It just became another stupid ass trap. And I'll explain all that in the next episode. Before I go, if you want to discuss this episode, there is a link in the Facebook group. There is a Facebook group, and the link will be in the show notes. All my content is free and always will be. If you want to support the production costs, though, I've set up a coffee account at ko-fi.com Unbound Podcast, where you can contribute any amount. I also take e-transfer or PayPal. You could just reach out for details. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit authorbethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/Unbound Podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.